The belief in spiritualism seemed to have been quite heavy in the early 20th century, and for years prior to that, starting in America in the 1800s. Spiritualism, to put it very succinctly, was the belief your awareness persists even after you die, and that you can be contacted by the living, and that you continue to grow even after death. Not literally, obviously. Seances, mediums, astrology appear to be more prevalent in these days than they are now, although they are definitely still around. I'm not particularly sure how I feel about it personally, and what you believe is what you believe. I did go to a clairvoyant a few times a number of years ago out of curiosity. She was pretty dang good, and the stuff she came up with, how could you fake some of that? But in any case, I don't doubt that there were a lot of those in the spiritualism community that were fake and did not have good intentions. And there were also those that lived and died by what their spiritual consultants told them. And this is the part that disturbs me the most. I do enjoy the story of the great magician Harry Houdini, who was initially interested in it, but later abhorred mediums and even wrote books about fakery in this belief system and testified before Congress that fake mediums should be prosecuted. Then he dies, and they try repeatedly to conjure him up in seances, ironically. FYI, he never showed up, to my knowledge. Unfortunately, as we've already seen a few times in these stories, spiritualism and the absolute placement of trust in it also figures into this story. Buckle up, partners. You're in for a trail ride that you probably don't want and didn't ask for. April 1922, Newark, New Jersey. Maud Fancher, 22, is at this time in the hospital and likely to die from poison. Oh my word, who gave her the poison, you ask? Herself. She poisoned herself. After she poisoned and killed her 2-year-old baby son, Cecil. Why? Well, she tried to kill herself so that she could come back as a spirit and guide her husband to happiness. Do what now? Yeah. Feeling infuriated? Yep, I am right there with you. So how do people know about all of this, about her motive? Because she wrote 3 letters before she did the deeds. One was before she killed her son. One was 20 pages written before she poisoned herself, and the third was written while she was losing consciousness post-poisoning. Herman and Maud Fancher were married 3 years prior in Detroit. I have seen Herman also referred to as Harmon, but I'm going to stick with Herman for the remainder of this story. 2 years before, they moved to Newark. They initially had a rooming house purchased with what was mostly Maud's money, but it didn't work out. Herman was out of work for a time, and the bills started piling up. Things were not going well financially at this point in time. Their son Cecil had been born in 1920, and Maud's health since the birth of her son had not been great. And to what extent it was bad, I didn't find any mention. And according to a source, she had a kidney ailment. So they were financially hurting, though by 1922, Herman was working and 26 years old and slowly getting themselves out of debt. So what brought about these horrible events? Herman said that after they had married, they had both attended a seance in a private home while they were still living in Detroit to contact their dead parents. And for whatever reason, since then, Maud had taken a great interest in the study of spiritualism. Herman said, quote, "That seance put the whole idea into her head. She thought she could do better for me if she were dead and would guide me from heaven." End quote. She believed she would better serve Herman if she were dead and becoming his spirit guide, that her death would take the weight, pressure off of her husband because of her ailing health. Yes, we have seen this before, people removing themselves from the world to provide a better life for their family. And we know about her motive because she wrote 3 letters during the course of her deeds because she feared that everyone would misunderstand her motives, and she encouraged her husband to make the contents public. She wrote the first letter before she poisoned and killed her son. Letter number 1, quote, "I will guide you from this day on, and my love always will be right with you. Don't let yourself get nervous. Just wait and see if I don't guide you right. You will be better off, dear. My health is no good and never will be. Don't think of sending our bodies home, as you know the body, after breath is gone, doesn't amount to anything. I have tried to endure my troubles, but it is too much. I hate so to destroy baby's life, but you know then he will live and have no troubles or suffering as we have. You have been so patient through it all. Now remember that baby and I are going to guide you and also talk to you. Baby can't talk, but He knows everything, so I believe he will talk from over there to you. I want you to start in again, just as though you had never been married. Forget your troubles. I want a chance to talk to you, so don't think you are left alone. I have marked every page of these letters, so goodbye forever here. I will talk to you at any time. I love you, sweetheart. Maud. Yep, killed her son. She fed her 2-year-old son carbolic acid, aka poison, from a teaspoon until he died. She laid his body in his crib and said the Lord's Prayer as she had convinced herself that a higher power understood what she was about. Then she wrote letter number 2 to Herman. Quote, Darling, beloved husband, I am writing you a line of this suicide, and I know what everyone will say. Quote, oh, she has lost her mind. But I have not, by a long ways. I know just what I am doing, and I know it is a great sin, but I have had enough hard luck, and I see more coming with my baby, as he has had a hard time all his life. And God knows, and you know, what we have both suffered when he was born. No one knows how I hate to destroy this poor child's life, as I have loved him so dearly. And no one knows how I hate to leave you, for darling, I love you. I am afraid someday he might be left without a mother the way my health is, and now he is so young he doesn't realize, and I don't want to leave him here to be raised by anyone else. I love him so, dearie. God bless his precious little soul, and you, dearest, can take care of yourself. End quote. Need to take a break? Here's a cute puppy. Anyway, she goes on for many pages, so I'm going to cut some stuff out. Quote, you know about spiritualism. I want you to go where you can talk with me, and I'm to say that you are a good, dear, sweet husband and just as good as gold. End quote. She mentions here as well that she wanted to be buried with her son in her arms in a cheap coffin in a cheap cemetery lot. She goes on to describe what to bury her son in, which I'm not going to get into because I simply don't want to. And then she continues, quote, save this note and let everybody at home read it, and be sure it is published in all the papers. What I would like you to do is to get married again and have another nice baby, so that you will not miss Cecil and me. I love the child dearly, as well as any mother, and that's why I'm taking him along, so he won't be abused after Mama's gone. You couldn't be with him all the time, and you can't trust him in good care with everybody, and this way, you are as free as you ever were and could go where you please and won't have baby to hold you down. End quote. Here's another puppy picture. The relatively small amount of poison she had given him left her with plenty for herself, and she took the poison. Post-poisoning of herself, she wrote a last letter to Herman. This is letter number 3. Quote, I have taken poison and have given the baby poison. Dear Herman, I have always lived a good, true life, and don't see why me and my baby suffered so. Of course, they will all want to know why I wasn't brought home. I'm assuming to Detroit or perhaps Illinois, where she was born. Continue. Tell them it was my request I shouldn't be, because I don't believe in such. I don't want no fuss made at all. Bury us in one casket, as I told you before. Don't think this is any disgrace on your part, for you are as good a husband as God ever made, and have never given me one cross word. And may God bless you, darling, and make you so happy, and I will guide you and help you to success. You are going to have great success from this day on, and you go ahead as if nothing had happened. Please do, dear, for it is my wish that you would go right ahead and don't let this bother you a bit, for you have good health and nothing to worry over. We are both at perfect rest. Dear Herman, I have done an awful sin, but I cannot endure my poor health any longer. Please do forgive me. Everybody did. End quote. This is where the last letter ends, when she became overcome from the poison and lost consciousness. A neighbor found her, and she was taken to the hospital. Maud passed away early in the morning of April 27, 1922, about 3 days later, in the Newark City Hospital. Towards the end, during a period that she briefly had regained consciousness, she allegedly spoke out against spiritualism and regretted what she had done. She requested to speak with the Reverend James Easley of the DeGroot Methodist Episcopal Church, and it was believed from this conversation she had with him as why she had turned against spiritualism. The Reverend said that she had, quote, repudiated spiritualism and wanted to make her peace with God, end quote. Supposedly prior to her death, Herman did tell her that he had forgiven her for killing their son, and he believed that she had forgotten about her desire to leave the world. Quote, towards the end, she constantly called for our son. I implored her to brace up and try to recover, end quote. And it's so odd to see such a notable and famous author just commenting on a case in a newspaper, but here you go. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, noted exponent of spiritualism as well as being the author of Sherlock Holmes, he had painted heaven in a very attractive terms. Quote, "We have been repeatedly told by spirits that suicide is a desperate and serious offense. The hand of providence cannot be forced. The person disobeying this injunction will find himself isolated on the other side until he or she expiates the offense. The act separates the offender from the one he or she loves until the spirit has paid the penalty. This incident demonstrates the great danger and the present lack of knowledge concerning the subject of spiritualism. If this poor woman had been better informed on matters of life after death, she never would have committed the act. True knowledge would have safeguarded her against it." End quote. Herman has declared spiritualism to be, quote, "a lot of bunk." End quote. Short one today, but thought-provoking. Initially, it's very hard to have compassion, and to a degree I still don't. But she was very young and seemed very impressionable. And I don't know to what degree her health was bad. Was she never going to recover? Was she always going to be ill? That was never said. She talks about her poor son, who had problems since he was born, but no mention was made if he also had health problems, or if she's talking about his problems because of her own condition, and also perhaps not being the best mom or something. She said that they had no relatives that could have cared for her son, but none at all. There was absolutely no one anywhere that could have adopted him if his father wasn't able to or couldn't. And she had it in her head that no one else could raise him. I get that she didn't want the son to be a burden for her husband, considering her husband needed to earn money to survive, but still makes me so angry that she felt there was nothing else that could have been done instead of killing her child. And Herman lost both his wife and son because of her misguided spiritual notions. If you'd like to hear more stories like this, please like and subscribe. Thank you.